Hello, I'm FPX Toycat, and we might not all agree on what you should call it, or even if you should name it at all, but everyone knows that you need a survival world that should be separate from your sketchbook or creative world. Everybody needs to test ideas before committing thousands of survival resources to them, but these are just two of the worlds that I think everyone needs. There are 4 more, and by the end of this video, you'll either realize that you have these worlds already, or you'll desperately want to create them. This video comes in 3 key parts: why you need more worlds at all, what worlds you actually need, what are the actual 6 that everyone should go through, and finally, what is the one and only thing you should keep the same across all of them. It might just surprise you, but to get straight down to business, you don't need to have as many Minecraft worlds as I do. I don't think anyone does, but you do need to have more than one, and that might seem like a ridiculous sentiment to some, because everybody needs their current survival world, and I will always advocate on this channel for it to be a long-term survival world. The thing that makes Minecraft fun is having this state of permanence and having things that actually change over time, and not just day to day, minute to minute, but instead year to year. I think it's beautiful and I really strongly advocate for it, which is why you might be confused that I would say you need additional worlds. Surely if there's one world you should be putting most of your attention into, why would you possibly need others? But here's the thing, I think you need other worlds to help out on your main one, and that seems ridiculous, but let me give you an analogy. When you go to the drinks fountain at a fast food restaurant, you can have one of the flavors and it will taste like that flavor, but if you start mixing lots of flavors together, it always tastes exactly the same. I've heard lots of different names for this, world peace, whatever you want to name it, but ultimately when you mix everything together, it stops tasting like everything and starts tasting like nothing, weirdly enough. And in the same way, if you play a world that is half creative, half survival, you don't have a half survival world, you have a 0% survival world. You can kid yourself and be like, yeah, I just use creative when I want diamonds or to skip this, but ultimately when you skip through that process, you're not really playing survival anymore, and that's why I think it's important to have these things be separate worlds. If you have an extreme creative urge and you desperately want to build out of diamonds, don't do it on the long-term survival world. When you and friends have a really fun idea that you would never do by yourself in survival, and so you know you'd be sacrificing something, separate these into different worlds. Don't make the Minecraft world equivalent of the world peace fountain drink, because it's not going to be as good as you think, and instead it might demotivate you in Minecraft. That is why I think it's so important to go into the 6 worlds you need today. Everybody needs a creative or sketchbook world. In fact, everybody already does this by default. I think what most people do when they're just kind of goofing around with a new update or a new set of blocks is they just go into creative, they look at the new blocks and they start placing them one by one, maybe making something that's constructive, productive, or maybe neither of those things, but that's what I do many times. But the reason that I recommend having one world for this rather than just continuously loading up new ones is because keeping all of this stuff in one place is really great for inspiration. If you build something that you really like, then maybe at some point in the future it can inspire future you to make that thing again or make it better or anything of the sort. If you have every single thing you've ever built in one world, then all of these creative projects can start to stack up and you can spot trends between what you make, or you can just enjoy the nostalgia of appreciating things you made in days past. Here is a sign I made for title update 54, as long as that was a go, and I think it's really cool to see progression of things in this way. And even if you don't care about that and you just want to see new terrain, you're never more than a few hundred blocks from being able to see this stuff again. Most people will start a brand new world when instead you could just move a few hundred blocks away on your existing one, and as long as you have good maps or you have a decent render distance, you should be able to always find your old stuff again, and maybe that's something that enough people say is good. I certainly think that the sketchbook is important, especially because if you have a long-term survival world, as I recommend you do by the way, but we'll mention that in a second, if you want to test an idea out, trying it in survival is really costly, but if you want to try, for example, I want to make 4 wide acacia trees, if you try out the idea and it looks terrible, then you can go to yourself, oh okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore, this is this doesn't look like a good tree at all. Or you can work out while in creative and you can fly easily what you need to do to make it a good one. If you're going to try something in survival for the first time, it might go kind of poorly, and so many of my ideas I will try out here in creative if I know it's going to be a lot of effort to do the same in survival. And so the most classic example of this, I would have to say, is right over here. I built my own house in Minecraft, but I also built this giant Minecat sign just to see, first of all, how many blocks it takes, how long it takes in creative, so you can get a vibe on how long it takes in survival, but second of all, just to see if the idea works. And so when I have a similar thing in my Let's Play, you can see where the inspiration comes from, and all sorts of ideas are tested in this same way, something I find to be quite fun. Speaking of things that are fun, I know that I'm not the only one who watches this channel that thinks that a long-term survival world is a good idea, and although there are a million reasons I could say as to why, the simplest one is that having a state of permanence is something that's great. Having all all of your old builds follow you around might sound terrible, but the truth is you can always go to a different part if you don't like it. For example, I'm in one very distinct section of my world around an extreme hill, but if you like the way that one biome pans out, you can build more things here, or if you really start to dislike it and you want to have a fresh start, instead of having to make a new world exactly the same as the created one, all you have to do is start again somewhere else. Because traveling just 500 blocks across my world to a desert on the other side of it will reveal that there is an entirely different style of build over here. Everything around is much more realistic. It's kind of a village city is what I was going for. So realistic fountains, and we got a windmill, and we got those weird houses that, okay, aren't very realistic. But everything around here is in fact designed to be a very different goal. And so for a while, I played like it was a brand new Let's Play with no link to my previous stuff, but in this very different corner of the world. I'm pretty proud of what I built over here. I still think this is such a cool random thing to be able to find in a world. But yeah, my Let's Play world is something I'm very proud of. But over time, if you really want to start again, you can just find something in your existing world. One of the things that I don't like to admit, because I talk about seeds, is that every single Minecraft world has something you can find on every seed if you're just willing to travel far enough. 100,000 blocks away in your Minecraft world, there might be something incredible. Maybe you should go there and find it. Speaking of incredible things that you might find, I really do think that obviously having a long-term survival world makes sense, and everyone will agree that creative worlds make sense as well, but like, what else could I possibly be saying to justify 6 worlds? Well, obviously I think the third and most important one here is going to be you need to have a multiplayer server that is separate to your main world. You might wonder why I only play solo survival in my long-term world, and you might think it's a coincidence that it's lasted for 10 years despite me never having other people in here, but actually let me be a contrarian here and say no, the reason it lasted so long is that I don't have other people in here. Keeping the survival multiplayer world separate from the regular survival world seems like an obvious idea to some people, but for many others it seems like a dumb one. Like, surely you're missing out on just mixing the two things together, but again, you're mixing different fountain sodas and are hoping for a different result, but it's not going to happen. This is my long-term survival multiplayer world that I gave up a few years ago, I think somewhere in the pandemic, but it was one of my favorite projects. We were working collectively together to flatten an entire survival world. And you might say, surely if I just made this my long-term main world as well, and I put all of my time in it, I could have achieved that goal faster and had more fun time with friends. And this certainly can be true, with the caveat that there needs to be a server or realm always running. When you rely on someone having their console, PC, or whatever else going all the time, or even when you rely on just someone else to pay a server bill, they might stop doing that one day and all of your progress might be lost. But even if you just assume there is an infinite server that will exist forever, truthfully, there is a fun to be had in multiplayer Minecraft when everyone is playing together. And if you start playing a bunch by yourself and just, like skipping through the game and helping people out by giving them stuff, you actually ruin the experience. Have you ever been in a Minecraft server where someone's like, oh, don't worry, I beat the dragon, here's all the diamond and netherite stuff, you can just get to doing whatever else you want? It seems really generous, but in the same way that handouts in the real world can have their fair share of issues if not administered correctly, in a Minecraft world, it can just be kind of deadening to realize there's no point going to the end because the dragon has already been slayed, there's no point doing anything because someone else in this world has gone much further, and it's no fun to be the person who hasn't gone further, but it's also no fun to have done all of that by yourself. What is the point of playing Minecraft solo in a world where you are meant to be having the fun with someone else? You should have a world that is specifically for you and your friends that you want to play with so much. I mean, personally, I'm a pretty big misanthrope. I'm not a big fan of social interaction. The idea of having a dedicated Minecraft world where every day you hop on with someone sounds like my worst nightmare, and I cannot believe there are people that do that for a job. But conversely, the proof is that there are so many SMPs that do so well on the internet. In fact, they do so ridiculously well, and many of the members of them do, that many people think that the way to have success is you start up a multiplayer server, and if you can't do that, you'll never have success in Minecraft YouTube. I don't know that I think that's entirely true, but the idea is definitely certainly there, but people will have much more fun playing Minecraft with others because this is how most games work. If you're a social person, you'll have fun combining social and whatever else you do, and if you're pretty introverted like me, that sounds like extreme hell, but either way, you might want to do it, and either way, that's something you can choose to do. Speaking of things you can choose, I think it is worth choosing to keep this world separate from your others, and that's why I did it with my very long-term world. By the way, it's kind of sad that they got rid of the old world type. I think there were so many fun things to this world, and over the years, I really did go through so much of it. However, you might be asking, what other worlds could you possibly need? I mean, I can understand the need to separate out the multiplayer from the solo and the creative from the solo, but surely that covers just about everything, except no actually, because what about having a world for all of your weird, zany, modded stuff that you always desire? This is something that is also a very popular category of YouTube, and it also tells me that there are many people out there that love the idea of playing Minecraft, but with 500 extra updates installed, and if you think that installing all of those mods or add-ons onto your existing worlds won't have any consequences, well, you'd be wrong in the same way that I think many people are wrong about assuming the marketplace, as much as Minecraft pushes it, is all about microtransactions and paying for things, because you can download all sorts of free maps, and there are some weird ones on here, but I always recommend having a map specifically for this. Here is an example. This is a map I found on the marketplace recently that apparently was co-created by NASA, and I couldn't help but be curious what that even means. Look, I'm in NASA right now, and there's an instructor here to tell me what to do. This is actually very, very weird. I think the fact that there are so many free educational maps like this, if you feel like learning but in Minecraft, is pretty fun. But I'll be honest, although this is very cool, and oh wow, yeah, there's a lot you can learn about the Artemis from these random rooms. Although I think this is very cool by itself, and I think a lot of people are inspired to learn in all sorts of forms. Maybe Minecraft is yours. I also mean that there are all sorts of maps that you can just kind of casually play when you're not really thinking too hard. The map is a few years old now, but I really like Don't Stop Running as just an example of this. It's basically Temple Run, but ported into Minecraft, and I think it's really goofy fun. And I think it's inevitable that at some point a better version of this is made by someone somewhere, but the idea is really fun and solid, right? You pick up coins, you get points, but the ultimate goal is you've got to avoid traps, and you've got to get as far as you possibly can. Very, very simple, very, very silly, and yeah, where do we go from here, by the way? Is this the end of the tutorial? Was this whole thing just here to show me what's happening? Anyway, so that is all that we require. Now, let's start a run, I guess. So we're going to grab the idol, and now look at that, we're going running. Again, I think it is a little bit of a shameless port of Temple Run, but it doesn't make it not incredibly fun, and one of those maps you can generally just sit into and like casually play whenever you're feeling a little bit bored. There's a lot of issues with it now, apparently, that have broken since it came out, but yeah, I do enjoy the idea regardless, and wow, text title player died, very sad. But yeah, just having something simple to play, parkour to do, something to kind of mindlessly do while thinking about or talking to or whatever you're going to do elsewhere is very, very important. But you also need to have a world for your goofy survival stuff, right? For me, I'll be honest, this world is always cycling. So for example, I was playing a lot of Caveman recently, where I was surviving exclusively inside a cave below Y0. It was a really, really fun challenge, and I do actually want to get back into this. And before that, I was playing Super Flat. In fact, my next challenge will probably be Ultra Flat, now that I've managed to get that map updated. It should be coming out really, really soon. And so yeah, as a result, I am always doing some goofy challenge, but I recommend having this being separate to your main world, because doing challenges like this is really, really fun to see where you can get in the game. I think the best way to unchain yourself in Minecraft, the best way to really unleash your potential, is to put roadblocks in your way. The same way that you work out, not by doing the same exercise every single day, but instead by increasing the challenge. If you want to get better at Minecraft, giving yourself a challenge is a really fun way of doing that, but it ultimately makes you not just better at the game in some ways, but also it means you have a lot more fun while doing so, because trying to survive in a cave where every creeper can mean your death, trying to survive in a world where genuinely making even the basics work is near impossible, I think it is such a fun thing, and it's so fun and goofy to me that yeah, I really enjoy what I've done in this world, and I can't wait to do more, and that is always the goal, to have another world so that if you ever get bored of the main one, or if you want to challenge yourself more, you have that fun, goofy challenge. I'm a big believer that you need one of these, and so if I've given these 5 worlds, what more could I possibly say? What else could possibly help your main world by separating out to a separate one? And this is going to be the most controversial of the entire list, because if you care about your long-term survival world, you do ultimately need to take steps to protect it. And so something that I did against this was I went to this 3,000 blocks away Ice Islands, and I needed to find a bunch of the Heart of the Seas, a brand new item, and indeed I wanted to find shipwrecks and ocean ruins when 1.13 came out, and so what I did is I just kept on heading in that direction, thousands and thousands and thousands of blocks, until I found the things naturally. This is the legit way to find them, it's the way Minecraft wants you to, and it totally makes sense if you think about the game as having one update ever and then never any more. However, the reason that I regret it, and the reason I think that the lesser of two evils is not doing so, is that now I have thousands of blocks of ocean and terrain that are frozen to their 1.13 standards, even though we have much more interesting things, and indeed much better, much more updated, less broken things that have come out since then. My world is permanently stuck in 1.13 for thousands of blocks in that direction, and on top of that, my world size went up massively. Whereas if I just made the 6th world on this list, goodbye Bo, if I just made the 6th world on this list, then I could have avoided all of that altogether. I'm a big believer that you shouldn't need to use Chunkbase or any external tool to find out what's in your Minecraft world, but I'm also very pragmatic when it comes to knowing that your world will corrupt if it goes above a certain size, and even ignoring corrupting, it becomes harder to back up. Basically, everything works less, and ultimately, it impacts your survival experience. So what I recommend doing instead, if you're curious as to what's in your Minecraft world, is explore on a copy. If you want to be really, really pure about this, you could do this in pure survival. You could go game mode S, and you could walk all the way over to 3,000 blocks. But instead, what I do, if I'm totally honest, is I look at the terrain and I go, yeah, what if this do I actually want to use? The fun thing is, you don't actually load in the chunks till you go somewhere, but if you want to see what's beyond that mangrove swamp, going there in your regular copy of the world, oh, that's so interesting. There's a floating desert temple here now. Apparently this seed has some weird cursed stuff. But yeah, if you want to find out what's in your Minecraft world and you don't have a high render distance, you have to load in all the chunks and permanently lock them in. Whereas if I go here and I decide I don't actually like this terrain, or I don't want it, or even if it's like a specific rare structure that I don't find here, deciding not to take it, I think is entirely valid. To me, this is a weird form of surveying in Minecraft, and I think that as long as you do it with a copy of the world, again, people who hop into creative on the main world, like you start to mess with the flags, you start to defeat the point in some way. By having a separate copy of the world to look at and then decide where to explore, you can save yourself a lot of work. I will admit this is not for everyone, but I think for almost everyone who does intend to keep a world for a long time, it becomes a near inevitability that you either have to, commit to exploring tens of thousands of blocks that will then sit there forever, and maybe you have to, like trim those chunks, which I'd say is worse than this, or you can just commit to offloading all of that extra space that you're not really even using onto a separate world. I would love it if there was a way in Minecraft for you to trim chunks that you visited but never done anything with. I would love if the game gave you an option to say, yeah, if this is 1,000 blocks from an actual place block that you yourself as a player have done, maybe you should get rid of that. I would love if the game could reduce my world size from a gigabyte down to a more realistic 150 megabytes. So, something closer to what we do on the marketplace, but the game itself does not allow this, and so for now, this is the best alternative that we have, and I think that almost anyone who has that long-term world, or even your multiplayer world or creative world, whatever the case may be, as the world size starts to increase, you're going to want to have this, and even if you want to go a step crazier and further, you can make it a full copy of your world, you could make it a full, you could see all of the main buildings, and you could use it as your test world as well. I don't know, this is entirely down to you. I'm giving you my opinion on the 6 worlds I think you need to have. I'm sure by the end of this video, you've got some food for thought, and maybe you'll realize that, yeah, actually, there are some more worlds I need. Because if you haven't discovered that, then the only thing that's clear is that you're gonna look like this. You're just mixing all of the fountain flavors together, and you know what you get when you do that? Swamp water. This bit cost me £4.45, by the way. I'll put that in dollars on screen. Please subscribe. There's one important thing that no matter how many Minecraft worlds you have, if you care about them, you need to do. If you would consider yourself heartbroken if your Minecraft world went away, it's important that you back it up. You can back up individual Minecraft worlds with the export function. This is what I do every month or so. Or you can back it up by having it on a realm or server. But if you've got multiple worlds, what I recommend doing is backing up your entire Minecraft world saves directory, or you can back up all of your Minecraft info, or like me, you can back up your entire PC. There are many services out there that will do this for you, but make sure that you have some backup of your stuff if you care about it, because one day logging onto Minecraft and finding all of your stuff is gone is the most heartbreaking thing, and it's the only thing worse than deciding that you think that actually, this can all be one world and this can all be Fountain Clip again. Anyway, point being is that the important thing is that you back up the things that you care about, because one day they might not be there anymore. Wow, this is a message about death disguised in Minecraft worlds, huh? But no, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.